Perhaps you have seen the video I have uploaded last week, which was a video about Cinematic Mod 2013. If you have seen it, you'll know that it is an attempt at a remaster of Half-Life 2. While I personally think it can be enjoyed, I can see that it isn't everybody's cup of tea. Today's video is a video of my 3 great mod series, in which I usually showcase 3 mods that I think are fun to play. Today's iteration of the series is a bit of a special edition. Today, we'll only be taking a look at remaster mods of Half-Life 2 that I think can make for a fun playthrough. I'll also be showcasing what settings I use in them, because they usually feature a ton of customization. A bit of a note though, I don't recommend any of these mods to be played instead of Half-Life 2 itself if you are playing it for the first time. If you are looking for a more modern take at Half-Life 2 for a first time playthrough, I'd recommend Half-Life 2 Update. These mods are meant for a fun iteration the next time you plan on playing Half-Life 2. Some of them will be more serious ones and some will be less serious. Enough talking for now though, let's get right into it. Before we do that, 95% of you aren't subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. The first one for today is SMod Redux. SMod is actually a base of a mod that adds a lot of new weapons, NPCs and effects, and allows people to easily create new content for Half-Life 2 maps or source maps of any kind. SMod Redux is a mod built using SMod. The installation process for this one is a little odd. I'll leave you a Steam guide on how to do it in the description. This mod is more of a fun one than a serious one. The advanced settings for this one are set by clicking on these buttons in the main menu and checking in the top corner what it's set to. These are my recommended settings. I recommend you to play this on easy, since this mod places quite a few more enemies, and honestly this mod only exists for fun and playing around with new weapons. Also be sure to go into the keyboard settings to set a button for a kick, bullet time and iron sight. Also, if you'd like to, you can bind a button for third person, which can be fun for a change. I'd also recommend you to cheat all weapons as soon as you receive the crowbar. Do this by entering Impulse 101 and exec give all in the console. You can also just play through the game and receive them through the story, but that's not as fun. This mod features cut weapons, Counter-Strike source weapons and entirely new weapons, some of them being completely ridiculous. You also receive money in this mod that you can then exchange for health and suit energy. I think this is due to me setting the gameplay type to SMod. It's an interesting alternative. The kick is pretty OP. You can literally just spam it. Dead bodies and characters in general also blow up the way they do in Half-Life 1. This mod features some interesting edits to the existing maps, like making the can that you usually have to pick up be a gas can that you can throw at the Metro Cop and set him on fire. You also lose the airboat at one point in the water hazard chapters and you have to continue on using the buggy instead. This is an incredibly creative idea. A ton of bull squids and hound eyes are also added across all the maps. Also things like Combine with rocket launchers or combat soldiers that fight along the Resistance in Anti-Citizen 1. Also the Combine assassins are added back into the game. You also get to meet Father Grigori later in the Highway 17 chapters. This mod released way back in 2006, and it basically was what playing Gmod is these days. These days, the only crazier way to play through Half-Life 2 will be using Gmod with a ton of add-ons. Even then, it won't be easy to compete. To quickly speak on the weapons before I give my rating for this mod, it features everything from some more serious rifles to the most silly weapons you have ever seen. It features some new melee weapons like swords or fists. There is also the golden crowbar, which is barely even a melee anymore. There are also a lot more pistols, including a dual-wielding one, and some like the Desert Eagle or the Golden Magnum, which one-hit kills everything, which GoldenEye players will probably love. It also features some cut weapons like the flare gun or OICW. There are auto shotguns, the M249, which feels incredible to use, some rifles like the Kar98K or M1 Garand. There is also no shortage of explosives, like grenade launchers and new types of grenades. Then there are also the really silly weapons, like cluster grenade bananas, throwable scissors, which bounce around the walls endlessly, a bowl of soy that you can throw that do 0 damage I think, a magical stick that throws magical beams that bounce around the walls and do a ton of damage, quickly filling a room since you have infinite ammo. You also receive a handheld strider cannon. You also receive throwable antlions and a minigun. These are only some of the tons of weapons you have. Oh, and you can also eat people. If I had to give this one a rating, which I usually do in my 3-rate mod series, it would be 8 out of 10. The next mod is a less silly, but at the same time a more crazy one. This one is also one I mentioned in my cinematic mod video, Half-Life 2 Overcharged. I think this one is also created using SMod. The main problem with this mod is the amount of settings there are, and that most, understandably, can't be bothered to experiment around with them. So I went out of my way and did. I think these are the most optimal settings for a pretty unique experience. Just pause and set all your settings to these for yourself. If you are experiencing lag with these settings, try turning down some of the backlight settings. I'd also recommend to play this on easy, as even then, it's still pretty hard. Here, I'd honestly also recommend to just cheat all weapons, using Impulse 111 instead of Impulse 101. This one features a ton of map edits, some AI changes, lots of new enemies including those of Race X like Gnomes and Voltigors, also some cut enemies from Half-Life 1 like the Charger. And there are also a huge ton of new weapons. Some decisions in the design of these weapons are definitely questionable.
Onwards and upwards. Oh, hey, the crossbow. Neat. Oh. On what planet is this a fucking good idea? That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow, okay.
To be fair, this smudge has since been removed though. A lot of these weapons feel the same to use, and you can thankfully also drop weapons if you bind a key to it, so you can just test around and keep the weapons you like. To quickly talk on some of the weapons, they include I think all weapons of Counter-Strike Source. A ton of new melee weapons, including a functional fire extinguisher, a ton more pistols, including the flare gun and a suppressed pistol, a total of 21 rifles and shotguns, including a bunch of snipers, the airboat gun, the emplacement gun and Annabelle, which we actually received in the new area added in the first map of Ravenholm, which was newly added and is inspired by the Half-Life 2 E3 demo. We also get a ton of new explosive weapons and even a flamethrower, lots more alien weapons and a couple new grenades. Overcharged also combines all of Half-Life 2 and its episodes into one, and also includes Lost Coast in Half-Life 2 as an optional chapter. You have to use the displacement cannon in the first level of the coast, or just move below this dock. After you get done with the Lost Coast level, you'll be brought back to where you were. The new weapons are a bit hit or miss, but most of them are fun. You can also limit your weapons if you want to, but I'd advise against it. It's fun to experiment around. This mod features a kick and bullet time as well. There are also different buttons for scope mode and iron sight. The main map edit this mod features is a ton more enemies everywhere. And to be clear, I don't think this is balanced. I don't think this is well thought out. But is it fun for a change? 100%. It even adds hound eyes that drink Red Bull, which are found in the files of Dota 2. This mod is pretty crazy, so this one is also not much of a serious one. The tons of settings it has drag the mod down a lot, and criticism is definitely deserved sadly. With my settings, I think you can have a bit of a fun experience with this mod. This one I would give a solid 7 out of 10. The final one for today is probably the most well-known one, and is actually a great way to experience Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 mods in general, Half-Life 2 MMod. I'd recommend you to play Half-Life 2 Update when playing with MMod, simply because it makes for the very most polished experience. Make sure to bind the iron sight, and these are my recommended settings. The most important one I recommend is to enable projectile bullets, which are seriously great. This setting turns all the hit scan weapons we know from Half-Life 2 into projectile-based weapons, which actually take time to reach whatever you're shooting at, even with only a very small delay. It feels great. I turned off head bobbing because I personally don't like it, but you can turn it on if you want to. This mod improves everything from the looks, sounds, weapons and AI. The weapons are all reanimated, and we also get some new ones, like the stun stick or being able to detach the emplacement gun and the Tau cannon. The new rebalanced weapons and AI feel great. Combine units are now able to jump and use a secondary fire on all weapons, most noticeably on the SMG to fire SMG grenades. If you thought shotgunners were bad as is, imagine right-click shotgunners. MMod comes with built-in support for a lot of mods, including Minerva Metastasis and Cinematic mod for example. The particles in this mod are also really incredible. The explosion effects and fire and bullets are all great. Your weapons also have new inspect animations, which you can trigger by pressing reload while the weapon has a full magazine. While I think this is a great way to play Half-Life 2, I'd still recommend to play through the normal Half-Life 2 first, because only then are you able to notice a lot of the great changes MMod introduces. MMod receives a 10 out of 10. You can't do much better of a remaster than this. Which mod should I review next? Check out my other videos, and otherwise, thank you for watching.
Cover me, boy.